What's up, everybody? So glad to be back here sharing another journal from this morning. Today we're on First Corinthians chapter 4. And again, this is kind of my attempt to reach out to the world digitally. A lot of people connect that way. And if you're one of them, if you're one of those folks that like to engage in discussions online and you feel those connections, and then I just wanted to potentially have an avenue for that. So let's get into it. I sent a link in the description below to Replicate Ministries website for their hero journaling method. I doubt it really matters too much what journaling method you use. I just wanted to share the one that I use in case you wanted to kind of follow along. But I want to make sure that you go there and get the information if you want it. So there should be a link. I'm not sure if it's hot linked or not. I couldn't quite figure that out, but you can just copy and paste it into your browser window. So let's get into it. So First Corinthians 4, we've kind of went through the early part of Corinthians, and we started off talking about Apollo and Paul, and there was division among them because they saw that those baptized or followed Paul, and some followed Apollos. I'm not sure how you say it, and that was causing this division. And Paul's like, who is Christ to be divided? What are you guys doing? And then he went. So that's kind of like the beginning of how they're or why I guess Paul was writing to them. But then they kind of dived into how they are kind of in chapter 2 and 3. Um, should be more unified, I guess. Struggling for words. By the way, good point. This is why this is a live conversation, um, because I feel like I didn't want it to be very rehearsed. And I know you're like, wow, you're not exactly polished, and I'm not. I'm just a normal person, trying to dive into God's word, and I want that to be obvious to the world. But that's why I kind of do these things. So, the good thing about journals is you kind of go back and you can kind of look at him or at them. And I love First Corinthians 3. Let no one deceive himself. Anyone among you thinks he's wise, let him be a fool. And they're talking about the world's wisdom. Let him be a fool in the world. And of course, if you're thinking about things in the right flipped upside down manner, to be a fool in the world is to be wise in God. And so moving into chapter 4, it says, I urge you then to be imitators of me. Short verse. And I wanted to pick that one because, and this is how I explained it. So HEAR explained, Paul wants the church to regard him as a servant of Christ, not anyone to be held in high esteem or regard or distinguished, but as a servant. And then he also stresses that we're not to go beyond what is written in God's word. And so I'm not exactly sure. That one almost seems kind of out of place, but that's he put that in there, obviously as a warning for us as believers. And then finally, Paul shares how he was the lowest of all. He was poor, he was homeless, he was ridiculed, a lot more things that were in there. He said to be imitators of him in his ways of Christ. He says this to set up, I think, chapter 5. But overall, this displays Paul's actions, not necessarily his words. Like today, I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you, words. But you can't see me. The other 24 hours and 55 minutes that I'm off of a screen, or 23 hours, forgive me. And you just don't know me. But they knew Paul. They saw Paul. They witnessed him, and how he carried himself and the manner that he carried himself. And he says, "Be imitators of me." He doesn't use words to describe, what they should do. I mean, obviously he uses some words, but in this particular section, he's like, "Be imitator of me." And so the application I think is similar. We should all strive to be imitators of Paul, truly imitators of Jesus, I suppose. Though we don't know him, we know much about him. He was all in for Christ, an extreme faith and dependence on God, willing to talk about God anywhere and anytime, always wondering how to relate the gospel in the situation and then doing it. And I just thought through these last couple readings about how I've shared my faith, or at least attempted to share my faith, and how usually the majority of the time I don't even think about it. And kind of talking to another brother about this, and to that end, we're actually we're actually gonna go out this Thursday. So I'll try to remind everyone on Friday or Thursday and Friday that we're gonna go out and start talking to people. And it'll probably be a fantastic failure, or at least it'll probably feel like a failure. But I have full confidence that nothing is wasted in God's world, God's economy, and that even though it's probably in an unexpected way, God is going to use that. And I really do. I expect that. I believe that. I have faith in that. So my response is, God, I know I'm not where I need to be. God, I pray that you work in my heart and my mind to shift it to one that has ears for you and listens to you, that I may be more like Paul in how I approach sharing the gospel with people. So, I guess this is probably one of the first times that I've reached out on the video, but if you would pray for me, and the gentleman's name is Nolan, and we're going to be going out and speaking to people about the gospel on Thursday, I would appreciate it. And I thank you for that. So, but in the meantime, not only do I pray this prayer from my heart, I always pray it, for whoever's sitting on the other end of the screen right now, that God may change your heart into one that hears and listens from Him. And we want to be more like Paul in how we approach circumstances, and seeing how to share the gospel with people. So, hey, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. All right. Have a good day.